Hi, I'm Jim and I was retired. This is going to be about inflation expectations, so expect to get a little bored. In this week's video, I will look at where inflation is heading, up or down. Now, as a DIY retiree, I focus on inflation measures probably closer than others, and part of that is because I used to cover the Fed regularly, and part of it is because a lot of my retirement savings is not hedged with a cost of living adjustment like some pensioners. I have a small pension, and I'll have Social Security next year that will be hedged against inflation, but most of it is my retirement savings. And if you don't pay attention to inflation, your retirement savings can get eroded over time. Now, on Wednesday, the Bureau of Economic Analysis released its Personal Consumption Expenditures Measure, or PCE, for July, and it was flat at 3.7%. And the core, which is the same measure without food and energy, came in at 3.3%. Now, the federal funds rate is the rate that's set by the Federal Open Market Committee, and that's how they control inflation. And it's stuck at that range of 3.5 to 3.75%, and they've left it there all year. By the way, earlier in the month, the more famous CPI was released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it came in at 3.4% year over year. Its core measure, though, without food and energy, is down about 2.5%, well lower than the core PCE measure of 3.3%. But the big question is, where are these lines going to go next? So there are ways that you can measure where inflation expectation is going next. And there are three principal ways that I've looked at before, and I'm going to look at them again with the latest numbers. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and share it with others who are on a DIY retirement journey. It'll help with the algorithm, please. And also, comment below, what inflation expectation have you built into your DIY retirement plan? This is the same chart with just the PCE and CPI lines there. That's where we want to know, where are those lines going next? And one way you can measure that is to look at the TIPS bonds break-even measure, and that is the difference between a 5-year TIPS and its nominal counterpart and a 10-year TIPS and its nominal counterpart. And you can look at those with daily trading, and right now that the 5-year TIPS break-even is suggesting a 2.3, and so is the 10-year TIPS break-even rate. That break-even measure also suggests about a 2.3. So those market measures are one way that you can look at the market conditions to see break-even rates. What are they saying about where inflation is heading next? But the market is the big amorphous market. It's based on the daily trading, give and take in the marketplace. Is there anyone else that we can turn to? Now, one way that you could do that is go talk to the experts. I'm always telling you, if you need an expert, go out and seek their advice. And in several ways, people do that. There's a famous one that the Wall Street Journal does. One of the ones that I follow is the Philadelphia Fed's survey of professional forecasters. Now, that number from the Philadelphia Fed's survey of professional forecasters is 2.4%, which is pretty close to those market break-even rates. And so that gives me some comfort that the experts are thinking it's going to be where the market thinks it's going to be too. So I study those kinds of readings to see where inflation might be heading. But those are the experts. They're not always right, as you know. And the market's not always right, as you know. So who else can you ask? Well, one of the other ways that you can do this is to do consumer survey measures. The University of Michigan has the most famous expectation survey. They survey consumers and ask, where do you think inflation is going to be in a year or 5 years down the line? So the latest number from that survey is that the inflation is going to be at 4.6% a year from now. But look how that line blew up in 2025 and inflation really didn't materialize. Could they be wrong again in 2026? Another measure comes from the New York Fed in its survey of consumer expectations. So that New York Fed number, the survey of consumer expectations, its latest reading was 3.6%, which is close to where we are right now. It's not where the experts and the market thinks it's going. It's a little higher. So which measure might hint where inflation is headed? Do we rely on the consumer survey measures? Do we rely on the professionals? Or do we rely on the market forces to predict where inflation might be heading next? Right now, I'm leading towards the market break-even measures for inflation. When I did this back in 2022, I gave the edge to the consumer measures, particularly the New York Fed survey, because it was hinting at where inflation, was going, and it turned out to be right. But right now, I would go back to looking at the break-even rates. That seems to suggest that inflation will get under control. I'm not ready yet to change my inflation expectations in my Bolden plan, for instance. It remains at 4%. I'm not going to bring it down to 3% for a conservative estimate until I can see that it's really going to get down there. But I do hope that the market forces are leading us to the right direction of contained inflation. If not, we're in trouble. Now, I'll remind you, I'm not an economist. I have no initials after my name. So take these as entertaining ideas from one DIY retiree to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one.